Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to 2024 of Pilipinx in Wellness. Again, I'm Cheryl Sampson Ramirez, your host. We'd like to introduce episode 10 of season 3, Self-Care Astrology with Marsha Pacificar, Astrologer and Self-Care Practitioner. This is a fun episode that I hope that y'all will enjoy as we talk about what self-care practices look like for each sign in 2024. Marsha's origin story as it relates to astrology and self-care. Hope that you enjoy this episode. Maayong adlaw and malipayon ng bagong tuig. Welcome back to season 3 of Pilipinx in Wellness. It's 2024, y'all. I'm your host, Cheryl Sampson Ramirez. Following our last episode in 2023 on Life of an MS Warrior with DJ Diane Dengading Palaganas, we will be opening the new year with astrologer and self-care practitioner Marsha Pacificar. As mentioned in previous episodes, all views discussed are for informational and educational purposes only. It's not meant to be medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare practitioner for your particular condition, especially before starting any exercise or new health program. For this episode, I'd like to welcome back from our first season that ran on Clubhouse, Marsha Pacificar. Welcome to the podcast, Marsha.
Hi, thanks for having me, Cheryl. I'm so happy to be here.
We are too. We're just happy to finally just record all the greatness that you have to offer our community. And our MO, actually, for starting our interviews is asking you, or our guests generally, where are both sides of your family from in the Philippines, and where are you currently streaming from?
Oh, right. Yeah. So my mom is from Dinalupihan, Bataan in Luzon. And my dad's side of the family, my grandma on that side, she's from Leyte. And my dad's dad is from Iloilo. And currently I'm calling from Rancho Cucamonga, also known as Tongvalan on Turtle Island.
Nice. You know, your grandfather is from the same area as my dad. So
Oh, wow.
my dad's Iloilo's located, in Panay. So that's where my paternal side's from. Okay, cousin.
It's so like when you think about
Yeah.
that, right? It's kind of like the journeys of both your family and my family, and today we end up on a pod together. So I think that's pretty magical, and we wouldn't have known that if that wasn't the question that you asked for all your
No, not at all. I just love the diaspora and like hearing where everyone's from. I mean, 7,000 islands, right? Approximately in the Philippines. You just never know where everyone's from and what they bring, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about your origin story, Marsha. How did you get into astrology? And for fun, what's your sign, or more appropriately, what are your signs?
Okay, I guess I'll start with my signs. My sun is in Cancer. My moon sign is in Aries. My rising sign is in Libra. So essentially, within my top 3, I'm kind of like a mixed bag. You'll never know what you're going to get with me. There's water, there's fire, there's air in there. So I think it's kind of fun. And so the other question that you asked is, how did I get started? Essentially, I can take it back to perhaps being about 9 years old. I found myself exploring my dad's bookshelf. Always, I guess that goes to show, right? I've got Venus and Gemini, and Venus is a planet of values, and Gemini is a book lover. So I would always get lost in his bookcase as a kiddo, and there was always really cool things in there about astrology, energy, Tibetan Book of the Dead, Khalil Gibran poetry, all kinds of stuff. Definitely a bookcase of a Sagittarius sun, which my dad is. And I just fell in love with it. I would get to a point where I would sit there with a protractor, a pencil, some graph paper, and I'd time myself. It would take me about an hour and a half to chart a chart, and that would be from drawing a perfect circle and getting in there. My dad worked for DWP, and he was a draftsman. So I had all the coolest gadgets. I had this like electric eraser that you could plug in and it would spin really fast. That came in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would take me about an hour and a half to chart charts. And I was obsessed from a young age, wanting to know my cousins, their friends, my friends. Pretty much if I was interested in you, I would have already had your name, birthday, and where you were born. So I did that for fun all throughout childhood, all throughout junior high, high school, college. It was just something that I loved to do. I didn't think it would become a full-time profession for me. But yeah, that changed after being about 25 years in fashion and retail. So, but I guess just to wind it back for how I even got to that point of being able to peruse my dad's really cool bookshelf, he had a really interesting story as well. So as being first gen, of course, our parents have these really rich stories. And my dad, his side of the family, very Catholic. He was drafted to go to the Vietnam War in the Navy. So his younger brother gladly enlisted. And my dad's like, oh, I don't know about that, but he got drafted, so he had to go anyway.
Wow. Yeah.
After serving, he came back completely anti-war, up for any protest that was anti-war. He came back questioning the religion he was raised in. And my grandma pretty much like almost disowned him at that point, you know? But I saw a lot of, I was able to gain a lot of insight from him. He had books on Edgar Cayce, metaphysics, and I just ate it all up. So as his Sagittarius energy had such a drive to find his own truth, I think it really influenced me. And on that bookshelf there was astrology books, and I couldn't get enough. Now we have programs that you could just type in the info and it calculates it in like 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's always been something really great about my relationship with astrology. And then I also worked in fashion as a stylist. I was able to learn from a celebrity stylist, met a lot of really cool people. But I also, in that whole era of my life, it also opened me up to mental wellness and how important it is to me. I didn't put it together at that time, however. But I also felt like astrology was a wonderful way to get to know somebody on a very unique level based on their natal chart, and then create ways in which having dialogue of like what is supportive and powerful to their wellness journeys. So as it was really helpful for myself, I found myself incorporating that in my, just like casual connections, meeting with people. I never thought I would be able to make a living from it until my early 30s. I started to have people reach out and be like, how much do you charge for reading? I was like, I don't know. How much should I charge for reading? So it became kind of something that I did so much, and I love doing it, that I felt that was a moment that I could pivot. And in that moment, it was like right before COVID. And that's when I decided to take the leap. So everything was changing on the grand scale of the whole entire earth. And then for myself, I decided to take a leap. And that here I am today.
Your dad sounded like such a hippie coming from the Vietnam War and then all the things that he was exposed to. But to your benefit, it sounds.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that I was in an open-minded home. I also, as a child, I remember going to the Philippine consulate, and we would be a part of the protests, when it came to Marcos era. I remember my mom, she said she was like in junior high in the Philippines, and they would like question them as if they were like these like out of control revolutionaries. She's like, I'm just an ASB. I just have leadership skills. But that actually opened her eyes into activism. So really cool to see both of my parents being able to still come from their authentic space of always, how do you say, no matter what, even if they got, I don't know, crap, for lack of a better word, for sharing their thoughts, they still did it. And I'm pretty proud of them for that, because I get to continue that.
Yeah, no, that's another parallel story we share, Marsha, because my dad also was an advisor accompanying his students on a protest during martial law. So maybe it just comes from that part of the Philippines.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, but definitely you were on one side or the other during that time.
Yes. And I think too, it gave me an early sense of there is power in numbers. And I think even astrologically, we're going to start to see that as we get into 2024, because there's this really big transit that's happening. Pluto is moving into Aquarius, and that's essentially power of the people for 20 years, starting January. So
wow.
I'm excited to see how that all unfolds.
Wow, that's exciting to hear. So you were starting to talk about identifying mental health wellness as an important theme for you when you were in the fashion industry. Yeah. Were there certain situations or incidents that made you realize that I think I want to focus in on this part?
It's really interesting. If you've ever seen like Devil Wears Prada, where it's like this culture of everything matters on the outside. I was really in that. I was really in that energy, and
yeah.
I could talk about it for hours, because there is a connection with what's going on inside and how you project outwardly. But I feel like working in fashion, there was a lot of let's make everything look good from the outside, even though things are wild when what's happening inside, whether it be like, there's like the front stage of a fashion show, but then behind the scenes, there's all kinds of wild stuff happening.
Yeah.
The whole smoke and mirrors illusion kind of thing. So I was in the presence of a lot of people who could really afford meditation or going on and getting a hike or just taking a chill, for a moment. But it wasn't something that the environment I was in that everybody was accessing. So it really made me curious. And as I life happens, right? So I had a really huge, just pivotal moment in my life concerning a divorce, and it really allowed me to look within myself to see if there's anything that I was missing. And I think up until that point in my life, so it's like my whole life, childhood, teenage years, early 20s, I'm in my early 30s, and I'm like, what is meditation? And I'm feeling anxious, and how come I can't control it? And I think that was the first time I went to therapy, right? And even just generationally and culturally, I remember having a conversation with my mom's mom, my grandma, when I was going through my divorce. I was like, it's really hard for me. I feel very anxious. I don't know. I think I'm depressed. So I'm going to see a therapist. And she was like, well, that's good for you, Marsha, because like in the Philippines, they would just be like, whatever, tie you up with the dog. And I was like, whoa, that's so hard.
That is so harsh.
But it was really interesting to see, that's just like my mom's mom. So she'd ask me questions like, so what do you do? I'd be like, these are the things I do. And she'd be like, wow, that's so interesting. So I think I went a little off topic, but I think the environment that I was in, it allowed me to want to seek more. And I decided to look at astrology. Astrology was a nice starting point to all the other self-care things that I wanted to get into. I lived my life putting everyone else first. Also my Libra rising, that's Libra energy, right? Putting others for you. But it's also culturally, I think it's a very Filipino thing to think about others first before yourself. And I started to realize, like, the more I give myself time to quiet my mind and do these practices, the more I can show up for the people that I love.
Yeah. And this is a great transition into what I want to talk about next. So on your website, you talk not only about, you describe yourself not only as an astrologer, but you also identify as a self-care practitioner. So did your self-care journey start when you were in the fashion industry, or did it start elsewhere? And tell us about the evolution of that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I think within the group or the environment that I was in, I was seen as somebody more on the calm side. But if I put myself in the environment that I am now, that version of me was not in a practice. So I think what happened was, let's see here. It was a culmination of just having a tower moment in my life, right? So in the tarot, there's this card and it's a tower and it's on fire and people are jumping off. And usually when we pull that in a tarot card reading, it's like, oh, it's time to surrender. Just let everything do its thing. Whatever needs to burn to the ground, let it burn to the ground. And I was experiencing that. I think I was 34 at the time. And at that moment, I realized, oh, I really need to figure out who I am, right? I put career first. I put the marriage first at that time. I've got 3 kids. I was really focused on making sure everything was okay externally, but within my own self, I wasn't doing the practices of checking in, grounding into my breath, being able to be mindful in the very regular and mundane things that we do on the daily. I was kind of like too much. My mind was in the future or in the past or on the to-do list. And I think there was just this point in my life. So I think it had to do with the tower moment. And then it also had to do with, I guess, just having a huge rude awakening to the reality that I was taking care of everyone else outside of me before myself. And I had to really get with the program, or I wasn't going to be able to survive or have a good time.
Yeah. And so what did that look like for you when you realized that that's what you needed to prioritize?
Well, what's funny is I did my astrology. I did all the things. I'm like, oh, what is going to help me? Astrology reading? Sure. Chakra readings, never had one. Let's do it. Sound baths, energy work, Reiki. I was like, I'll try anything at this point. And I think what really landed for me was doing a transit report on my year ahead, and all of my transits, they looked a little bleak. It was like, oh, things are going to be tough, so you just got to roll with punches. And the following year was the same. And I thought, wow, I should get a really good handle on my mental and emotional well-being. And I wanted to keep myself safe in that transition, right? Because sometimes when people have huge transitions, that can also afford them a time to like get wild or and like maybe even make it worse. But I was like, I really have to buckle down. I've got these 3 little kids looking at me, and I'm here to provide for them. So I have to really get into it. So the astrology readings helped. And then it helped me to map things out. After that, I'm like, I think I should really get into a meditation practice. And I started studying Zen at a local monastery, and I would go a couple times every week and hear Dharma talks and learn about things that you just don't learn about in school. Who teaches you about impermanence, or essentially how to breathe in a mindful way, or how to walk in a mindful way. So it really afforded me a really good time in my life to get back to basics. And that really helped. Then it opened up other things. Like that's when I started to learn how to be completely plant-based, and I started to feel really great. I learned about, not at the monastery, but that was a cornerstone. Then I learned about drinking really great water, and then my skin started to feel really good. You know, even the shifus at the monastery, they're like, yeah, if you meditate and you have a good practice, no need for Botox, instant face lift, you know. And it was kind of like a joke, but super real. I started to feel that I was able to be present to myself, and in a time in my life where things could have been really wild and chaotic, dropping into my self-care gave me a foundation to be grounded in. And I'm so grateful that I was able to find that. So during that time, I also had friends who were either going through the same thing or just curious, like, wow, you're going through a lot. How are you surviving? How are you managing? And I'd be like, well, I'm doing meditation and it's great. Want to try? And they'd be like, yes. So it turned into this thing where I just felt really great within myself, and I invited some people along for the journey. And then I realized that really nourished me and fueled me. And I could do it. It could be something that if I didn't get paid for doing it, I'd still do it. But then I also found avenues in which the business practices that I learned in doing work with the corporate world, I started to see crossover and ways in which I could help and then also sustain myself.
Nice. You mentioned transit readings. Can you explain to our community what is a transit reading?
Sure. So essentially, in astrology, we'll look at everyone has a natal chart, and we get that natal chart by having the time, the location, and the day. And the natal chart is really beautiful. It is like a crystallization of the planetary alignment the moment you were born. It's so special. Even if you were born on the same day as other people, it's different based on your location and time. So even if you're born in the same hospital as somebody, it's still different based on time. So with a transit reading, we get the natal chart, and then we look at the chart of the alignment for now, or maybe even the chart for the alignment for the year ahead. And we're able to match up specific aspects astrologically. That's what professional astrologers do. And I like to share, I'm not like a psychic or a fortune teller, but I am like a stats and analysis kind of gal. So we can see certain aspects and alignments in the natal chart with the chart of now, or the chart of the next couple of months or the year ahead. And we can read the weather. By doing that, it really can inform the client that I'm working with as far as how to show up for certain events. So at the end of the day, we're always in charge of what we are co-creating with the universe. So I like to share, it gives us a wonderful way to take a look at the energy and figure out how to show up for it. For example, we are in the beginning of January, but for example, during Christmas, and it ended on January 1st, was Mercury in retrograde, and that is a transit. So when you're like, what's a transit reading? A transit reading is just looking at a moment in time and understanding how it relates to your own personal chart. So in short, it really helps us to be informed on how to show up for the experiences we are co-creating.
Wow. That's pretty, that's eye-opening for me. When you hear of astrology, I never heard, of the technicalities. It sounds like there's a lot that can be involved in a reading itself, based on where your planets were, right, when you were born, and what was happening in the world from what you're mentioning.
Yeah, it's so profoundly beautiful when I think about it. It's kind of like if, Cheryl, you are your own universe, right, with your own energetic makeup. The moment you decided to debut on Earth, the sun had this solar energy just like amplified on you wherever you were born. And you're your own universe bopping around. And then you meet me, I'm my own little universe. And then we co-create, make a little solar system of energy. I just think it's so magical.
Now, the astrology that you study, where is the roots of it? Like, what country does it originate from? Because I understand there's also Chinese astrology out there, right? And Vedic astrology.
Yes. So I dabble in Chinese astrology. Vedic astrology, I just can't, because I know my brain's limits. I just feel like that would just be allowing so much into my mind. So
yeah,
what I practice is Western planetary astrology, and a lot of it comes from ancient Babylonia, Greek and Roman practices. So we essentially take a look at the archetypal energy of the planets, and we connect them to the personalities within somebody's chart and the energies that we experience.
Okay, and you also incorporate, do you also incorporate Chinese astrology, or is that a personal interest that you're starting to explore?
It's a personal interest. I like to keep my offerings very concentrated. so everyone knows what they're receiving. So at this moment, I just focus on Western planetary astrology. What I do is connect it to self-care. So I like to call the work that I do self-care astrology, using it very practical, finding ways in which somebody can be really informed on what type of self-care practices really work for them. Because throughout my own journey and holding space and guiding others, there is a truth that I've been able to observe, that no one is more powerful than a person who is well-resourced within their own self-care practices.
Tell us more about that. So self-care astrology, are there different practices that resonate with different signs, or what is self-care astrology, since I know that's the title of our episode here?
Yeah, of course. So for example, based on specific signs, there's different interests. For example, I have a Libra rising and you have a Libra sun, right, Cheryl? So when it comes to self-care for Libras, it really is just bringing themselves to a beautiful space where they can visually feel and see harmonious aesthetic and compositions, right?
That's so funny that you say that. Because I bought an annual membership one year to the Huntington Library.
You did? That's
I love botanical gardens.
Yes.
So that's so funny that you're hitting it like on the nail.
I'm a member too, so maybe we can go together.
Yeah.
So for example, Libras are ruled by the planet Venus, and Venus really is such a beauty aficionado, right? So if the space is beautiful, you're already feeling great. Your nervous system is calm. Also to reading, learning new things, having amazing conversations with lots of depth. That can also be self-care for someone with Libra in their chart.
That was me last night, but yeah.
Yeah, well,
I was in a deep conversation with a friend. That's so funny.
And you're like, I'm living my life. Like, how great did you feel the next day? Were you fully replenished and cup full and feeling inspired?
Yeah, I just felt connected, that's funny. Like, I just felt like I had a deeper connection with this friend now that we were able to dive deeper into personal, topics, and find parallel within it.
Right. Yeah. So, for example, these are very connected to the sign of Libra. So, wherever Libra is in your chart, that is most likely an easy go-to self-care activity. That might not be the same for somebody who has Cancer in their chart, right?
Or true.
Taurus. So the really fun thing about self-care astrology is you can leave a reading and be like, oh, that's right. I do love doing these things. And when I do these things, I feel very self-cared for. And I think that's empowering for people to know. Oftentimes, Libras are like, I just want to go out and have a good time with friends. And that's self-care to me. But that probably wouldn't be self-care to somebody else.
Yeah, no, totally. Wow, I can't wait to hear more. I think we're already actually at the first half.
Nice.
So thank you all for joining us for our 10th episode of Season 3. The first one of 2024. I'm talking with Marsha Pacificar, Astrologer and Self-Care Practitioner. Feel free to take a quick stretch, refill your water or tea. We'll be right back with a fun second half after this quick break.
What a good stock of sensimilia inside of me lungs. Keep I and I refresh when me speak from the tongue. And I bring a mood when we chant to the drum. Toast in a dancehall style in a Euro fashion. Boom! A little rhythm for the massive when we demonstrate. Style come yard when I and I communicate. Spread peace, love, say no need for any troubling. Cause a positive vibration put forth is bubbling. Seeing them no need for a wicked man styling. With a jamming session, lyrical type of party say. Rough and rugged in an almighty way. Say tougher with a sound with a microphone display. Hear me now say ready for you. Let the rhythm come again while we mash it in the dance floor. All to attend. Put your lighter in the air, blow out clouds of smoke. For the medicine fit take ethnic, this ain't no joke. Jump on the rhythm, jump on the bass. Peace from I and I when we jump up into the place. It's a one love sound, no need color or race. When we all hit the vibe, let us unify this space. Peace to meet you, coming from this king. With a righteous type of energy, set forth we bring. Say, back to respect, sent from a clean heart. Say, back to the roots, back to where it all starts. Say, back to beginning, with a humble attitude. Just hit this, yes, some music, will I mash up the tune. So, roll up a spliff, burn the cannabis, inhale, exhale, till it burn me fingertips. Say, a rock steady, this me type of groove. With a steady type of crowd, we only win and never lose. If you come with negative, the only thing for us to do is level up the energy, continue to move. If you buy, put one in the air, hold it up for one love is I and I engineer. And if the sound seem worthy, you know what to do. Say, keep the Bible around so the rest feel it too. If you buy, put one in the air, hold it up for one love is I and I engineer. And if the sound seem worthy, you know what to do. Say, keep the Bible around so the rest feel it too. Say, this tough gong stay iron with the lungs. But the chalice remain burning in an irie fashion. Say, burn by the acreage, we burn by the pound. When the rude boy grab the mic, I bring that fire to miss. I miss say, a lot of sense on me, you're good for the soul. Spread positive awareness, keep your third eye controlled as we move. I let it fill up the soul while lighting up your fuse. I let the good vibes explode. Boom! From contact, let it uplift your tool. With a generous amount, you already know what to do. Say, pass it around, let us all feel the high. Special high grade, no negative conquer I. Say, solid attitude while me light up me split. You know one love vibe so negative, always gets dismissed. Me chant to bring us all in unison. In the ragamuffin when me still say a hooligan, but say, one day you're gonna see what I bring. Ethnic distance, stay sharp when slicing. But for now, just a tune to unload. Then an old man styling who still rock while they roll. So, level the vibe, what a drum and bass hits. Spark of positive tends to keep the fire lit. We're gonna show what a good vibe is by coming all together. Business comes to an end. Rewind selector, watch us do it all again. While sending peace and love to all of those who attend. If you buy, put one in the air, hold it up for one of this I and I engineer. And if the sound seem worthy, you know what to do. Keep the Bible around so the rest feel it too. If you buy, put one in the air, hold it up for one of this I and I engineer. And if the sound seem worthy, you know what to do. Keep the Bible around so the rest feel it too. Hear me now.
Welcome back to Pilipinx and Wellness. You were just listening to the late and great Ethnic Descent's Good Vibes Only single released in 2022 off of Diggable collection Clean Heart Records. Ethnic Descent was a funky Filipino MC, an island reggae artist, a husband, father, son, and cousin from Gardena, the South Bay, a FPAC musician, and many other things to those who loved him, who unfortunately transitioned this past year in 2023. You can find his wife on all digital platforms, and we'd like to sincerely thank his wife, Charmaine Jane Madella, for permission to share his music on our podcast. I thought he was appropriate, Marsha, when you mentioned that you loved island reggae, and I'm like, I got the right person in mind.
You knew what you're doing.
So shout out to all of our Pilipinx artists and musicians out there laying down the tracks. Returning from our break, I'm talking with Marsha Pacificar about self-care astrology. Let's have some fun, Marsha. What does self-care look like for the various signs in 2024?
Sure. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll go over the 12 signs, and I guess we'll start with Aries. So what's interesting is for Aries, there's going to be a lot of growth in 2024. We have the North Node accessing people who have Aries in their chart. So there may be some positive changes happening with career, with wealth, with love life. I think the really big thing for Aries to pay attention to is perhaps if there's any fluctuations in health, to just do the things that you need to do to make sure that you're fully resourced and feeling well. So yeah, perhaps incorporating that visit to the eye doctor or getting foot massages or doing the things that keep you in your physical best. Next, we have Taurus. So for Taurus, this could feel like a year of new beginnings and also personal growth. For Taurus as well, there is an emphasis on health and well-being. And it's feeling lucky for people with Taurus signs because we have Jupiter in Taurus. So self-care practices, consistent fitness routines that line up with your overall health goals, and fostering a sense of well-being is so helpful. And next we have Gemini. For Geminis, this year is a year of curiosity, communication, adaptability, focusing on intellectual pursuits and personal development. It's a great year to take that workshop or further that specific degree or certification that's going to support you. And for self-care practices, engaging in meditation or journaling, things that can slow that fast Gemini mind down a little bit is very supportive. And next we have Cancer. So for Cancers, this year is about really loving up on your home, getting connected with your intuition, and really utilizing that sensitivity of yours as a superpower. Also emphasizing on family and emotional well-being is very helpful for Cancer signs in 2024. I think a really great self-care practice would be to carve out some really beautiful space in your home that can feel like an inviting altar, somewhere where you can receive solitude, peace, and quiet. All right. So for Leo, this year is about really connecting with your ambition and your generosity. There may be moments of dramatic emotional expressions, but also finding ways where you can tie that in to your ambitious goals. It is a year to focus on career advancement and how you self-express when it comes to self-care, balancing your ambitious pursuits with moments of creative expression. Also to making time for play for your overall vitality. So for Leo, because it's a very ambitious year, your self-care would be to make time for fun. Next, we have Virgo. This year, Virgos will feel their practical wisdom come through. Also, ambitious year for Virgo as well. Emphasis on blending practicality and your personal growth. With Virgo, it's about organizing your workspace, harmonizing the space to feel like you're ready and you have this clear canvas to do all the amazing things that you're doing with work. Next, we have Libra. This year is about balance, specifically within your relationships. It is a really great year to focus on partnership and then also how you can create moments for self-discovery within the partnership and also on your own. And the self-care practice for Libra, it's about creating that inner balance through activities. Perhaps it's yoga or meditation, and prioritizing new, energy for how you can self-discover the things that you love to do. And that's really powerful for personal growth. So keep that in mind. Cheryl, any thoughts? Do you have anything happening for you next year?
Well, I do want to go back to yoga, and and there is a Chinese martial arts that I might want to explore too. So yeah, there are some options on the horizon.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks for sharing. Next, we have Scorpio. For Scorpio, this is a year of transformation. So when we had the last eclipse around Halloween in 2023, there was a lot of transformation brewing. So for 2024, that transformation continues. And it really is emphasizing on your personal and emotional growth for 2024. It's about channeling your intensity into activities that support emotional well-being. So that can be working on journaling or even just breath counting meditation, taking yourself to places where you can get in touch with your emotions and harness them for your own growth and transformation. Next, we have Sagittarius. There is adventure in the horizon. There may be a focus on travel, education, maybe furthering certain educational pursuits, and really thinking about how you can expand certain areas of your personal freedom. For self-care, this year is about infusing your year with adventure here and there, giving yourself wiggle room to take some impulsive day trips or weekend trips that align with your personal freedom and what makes you feel great. Next, we have Capricorn. For Capricorns, this is going to be a year of discipline and hard work, also achievement. So there is emphasis on career advancement in the air, really looking towards financial stability. Self-care practices would be about balancing your very controlled work ethic, diligent work ethic with moments of self-compassion. So incorporating relaxation techniques into your 2024 can be really wonderful for you. Perhaps you may not be the only one doing yoga, Cheryl, for 2024. And I'm the Capricorn.
Yeah, that's why we're giggling, y'all. I'm giggling.
And then next we have Aquarius. So for Aquarius, this is going to feel like a very innovative year where you are being invited to let your originality shine, what's authentic within you. There is definitely room for change for you. This year, perhaps thinking about personal reinvention and thinking about any creative pursuits that you've had in mind but haven't gotten to. This is a great year for that. For self-care, it's about embracing your innovative spirit through the creative outlets and the projects that you're choosing to do. anything that just really highlights what makes you unique is a wonderful practice for 2024, Aquarius. And last but not least, we have Pisces. And Pisces this year is about spirituality, creativity, and intuition. There's also a lot of things activating for inner growth and emotional fulfillment. We also have the planet Saturn is in Pisces for 2024. So there is a lot of responsibilities to your creativity and to your intuition that you're here to show up for, and you're going to feel really great when you make that a focus. When it comes to self-care, it's about nourishing your spiritual side, doing things that make you feel like you're in a flow. It can be creative, like artistic pursuits. It can also be meditation, getting yourself in nature, and really just grounding into a specific emotional balance and fulfillment for yourself. So, yeah, Cheryl, we did it. Those are the 12 signs. They're very, how do you say, highlighted. Of course, there's so much more within each sign, but I think those are the big takeaways for me.
So my partner is a Capricorn. Marsha, what is your partner? I know you are also in a relationship. Yeah.
Yes. So interesting enough, Anthony's a Leo sun. Yeah. He's got a Scorpio rising and a Libra moon.
Nice.
So if you do know a little bit more than your sun sign to any of the listeners, for example, if you have a moon in Aries, maybe you want to think about that when you do the replay of the podcast, or your rising sign when listening to the horoscopes.
That's what I was going to actually ask you. It's like, I know people are going to play this back. So when they're listening to all the signs, are they listening to all three?
Yeah, you can. Essentially, if you are, say, for example, in Vogue magazine, there's a horoscope. That horoscope is created based on the rising sign or the sun sign. But if you want to get even more nerdy about the astrology, you can think of your moon sign as well. And if you don't know any of that, you're more than welcome to give me a call and we can book a sesh.
Right. Yeah, because I'm sure there's some people that are like, what is a rising sign or what is a moon sign? And what does Marsha mean when Saturn is in Taurus or Neptune is like, they're probably wondering, what does all of this mean? Didn't know there was anything beyond their sun sign, right?
They're probably like that meme where it's this lady and there's all these equations and planetary alignments happening.
Yeah, so we're gonna, no, totally. And we're gonna share Marsha's information at the end of this episode if you'd like to dive deeper. I know there's also different things like houses, right? When something is in the fourth house or no, yeah, it's totally sounding Age of Aquarius here.
Yeah. And what's really great, what I started last year in 2023, I started doing workshop containers for anyone who's interested in learning about astrology more. And if they want to learn how to read readings, I will be doing that quarterly in 2024. So
there you go, y'all. We'll make sure to share it. Yeah.
Well, the questions pop up. You're like, what is that? Now I need to know.
Right? Okay, now I want to know, Marsha, how do we make this pertinent to our community, right? We are Pilipinx in wellness. So, for example, when your parents, like your aunties and uncles, they ask you what you do for a living, how do you even begin to explain this world to them?
Oh my gosh. It's really funny because I think about just maybe it was a month ago, I had my nanay come from the Philippines, and I did have aunties, and they're like, what do you do? What do you do these days? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I do sound meditations for really cool corporate events. And I have astrology sessions, and they're like looking at me confused, right? Because that is an unusual profession. So what I did was I brought sound bowls, I brought tarot, I brought my astrology program, and I'm sitting here with my nana and my aunties, and we're just talking about all the things and having so much fun that we ended up hanging out, laughing, even crying, like good tears of crying, even some like emotional crying, just going over everyone's stuff. It was really fun. It was super healing. And I couldn't believe the engagement with my nanai and my aunties, and watching them have certain insights with each other and laughing about it, like really, really huge healing belly laughs. So I think because I've been doing this for several years now, I don't have the level of confusing faces that I had back in 2019, but they do want to hear what's new. They're like, what'd you do? What kind of fun jobs did you have this year? So they always have this funny comeback of like, and they pay you for that? You got paid for that? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And they're like, wow, that's so interesting. Actually, in 2023, I had some really fun gigs that they were happy to hear. So we were asked to share sound meditation for Ali Wong's Netflix premiere of Beef.
Nice.
And it was really cool to be in community, and also to be in AAPI community who are creating in entertainment. And even for me, I stopped with like so many aha moments of like, wow, what a beautiful community we have, and everyone's working and doing things and putting their projects out there. And it even gave me an invitation to share wellness with them. So if you're not familiar with that show, it is about road rage. So they called it the Rage Retreat, where we had a lot of self-care practices lined up for them. We were able to have sound meditation, and there was sage bundle making, and I actually put in some guava leaves from the trees on my property. So we're sharing these practices. There was also plant potting and all kinds of fun wellness things. But I really was taken aback of how valuable and important it is these days, especially as technology is so big in our everyday mundane practices, right? We're having these really big elevating conversations now that we probably, I don't think our parents had them. I don't think our parents were thinking about what their sleep hygiene looked like. I don't think our parents at our age were talking about screen time and how they can lower that in their day-to-day. So yeah. I think when communicating my work with family, it's been really fun. I've been seeing a lot of bridging of generational understanding, and I think it's been really cool. I'm really cool. I think I'm really excited to see how it unfolds.
Yes. I mean, as you talk about family, I'm sure, do you ever do readings for an entire family, even like the children? And that should be really insightful for someone to hear.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So back to that gathering with my nanai and the aunties and my mom, We actually did astrology. We're talking about the signs, and there was a lot of, oh my gosh, I could see that, he's calling the other aunties out.
Yeah.
We also took a lot of time to share tarot, and I think just like looking back on it, I that will be one of my highlight family interactions. We're able to, how I share tarot sessions, I like to make sure whoever is the querent, the one pulling the cards, that they're dropped in, they've taken some breaths to meditate and to connect with their intuition. And in that moment, I'll take out a sound bowl and bathe the person in the sound while they're grounding into their own breath. So in this instance, it would be my 90-year-old Nanai, right?
Yeah.
And to shuffle the cards and have her think about a certain question she'd like to ask and pull the cards. It was just so cool. It was so cool to see her openness and everyone else's attentiveness in the room to, oh, what card did you pull? And then it's like, what do you see in this image? And to hear my Nanai's interpretation of like, oh, I don't know, this person, they look like they're happy, and to connect that with a question that she has thought of. It was just so beautiful to be around. I think too, my Libra rising, right? Cheryl,
Yeah.
Libra sun. I think after that experience, I just felt so invigorated. And I thought, wow, what an opportunity to connect with my Nana and my aunties and my mom. We don't take the time to connect and actually ask these questions or have the conversations about it, right? Usually when we see each other at family parties, all they want to know is, are you working? Are you making money? Are you happy? Are you happy with your partner? It's like we got to go deeper. And I think that was just such a gift, and I'll never forget it. And we had so much fun just laughing about it. I was sharing with my partner who was also there. I'm like, I think that was some family Taropy with the tarot cards. Like everyone felt so full. And what I noticed there was my Nana had the ability through that group tarot session to say she likes to be considered. She likes to be asked if she likes to be invited to go to simple things like going out to eat. But it was funny because within the family dynamic, I had aunties and my mom griping that she likes to be asked like 3 or 4 or 5 times before actually going. But I think the root of it was my Nana's Gemini sun just wanted to be considered, and she wanted to hear it often. And we came to the conclusion, there is the big themes in life, right? In tarot, we call it the major arcana, the big life themes that everyone experiences. And the minor arcana, the very mundane things. And I think we came to the conclusion was Nana wanting to be asked 4 or 5 times to go somewhere. That's a major arcana thing for her, right? I also dropped into the insight of, at that age, how often do people ask you to do things, right? So like Cheryl with your partner, your Capricorn partner, he's probably like, what do you want to eat? What do you want to do? Do you want to go here? Do you want to do this? And I'm thinking, my Nana, she was married and she's now widowed. She probably enjoys being asked all those questions at no matter what the frequency was. So we came to the conclusion as a family, aunties and my mom and myself, like, just ask her all the questions and ask her over and over again because she feels considered and included. And that's all she wanted. But also she wouldn't have been able to say it that way if we didn't carve out the time to do that. So I felt like that was the gold from that experience.
Nice. So those of you who are listening, like throughout the diaspora globally, this is another way that astrology can bring you together with your family as you learn more about each other, right? Case in point. Okay, so now I think you've gotten several members of our community intrigued about, okay, now they want to know more, right? So tell us what a typical self-care astrology session would look like with you.
Sure. So oftentimes I do work with clients consistently, but say, for example, if it's your first self-care astrology session with me, it's really engaging. We will do it live on Zoom. So once I receive your birth date, your time, and your place, you'll fill it out on an intake sheet when you schedule your call. I'll have all that prepared, and we have a share screen. And during that exploration, it's about looking at the natal chart together. And I kind of have like this visual, like I'm the magic school bus lady, where she's like, I don't even know her name, but she's like really eclectic, and she's like, okay, here we go. So essentially I'm just giving someone a tour of their natal chart. And within that, we get to explore. I get to guide them through specific personality traits or authentic aspects that make them uniquely them. And it's an insightful discussion where we identify certain self-care practices that align with their astrological placements. In that moment, we'll most likely go over a specific astrological transit that involves analyzing the current positions of the planets in relation to their individualized natal chart. And it actually provides insights into how these movements, right, these planetary movements, they influence various aspects of a person's life, which offers a dynamic perspective on potential opportunities, challenges, personal growth during the specific time frame that we're looking at within the transit. So this session, it's not only informative, it's also enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. And we end up concluding it, going over a transit or a current planetary alignment. And together, we map out how this specific energy aligns with their current experiences and explore ways to leverage it in their personal growth. And the sessions are often filled with lots of laughter. There's moments of heightened awareness, making the process both fun and enlightening. There are moments where people kind of feel emotional because the space is so safe, right? I always share with people, I'm like one of the most safest people you can chat with, because we create this just really safe golden container on the calls.
Nice. And then in addition to your self-care astrology session, you mentioned that you also have an astrology school that you're developing, I guess, or more, I guess, in-depth understanding of what that would entail if they wanted to dive deeper into understanding astrology. In addition, so what other services do you provide in addition to the self-care astrology session?
Yes. So I provide the one-on-one hourly sessions, and those can be scheduled based on what works, right? According to my schedule and their schedule. I also have 6-week workshops where if somebody's interested in learning how to read astrology on their own, if they'd like to read it for friends and family, or even if they want to do it professionally, I have programs that they can join, and they are live and group based. I also have a 3-month mentorship, and that is where we meet once a week for an hour and a half. and we go over the details, the nooks and crannies of their entire chart. And also, I can provide this space where they can also learn the proper foundational pieces in reading astrology. And I often see in the mentorships, people start to get their unique craft on how to interpret charts. So it's kind of like, an artist, their medium is paint and canvas if they're a painter, right? So an astrologer, foundationally, all of the tools are the same, but every astrologer has their own craft and their own way of sharing, and we go through that based on their own astrology chart. So for example, my Cancer sun gives me this very nourishing and supportive way to share astrology, right? I kind of have this thing where I like to wrap them up in a warm blanket when we're going over their chart. And then I also like to keep it cute because I have that Libra rising. So there'll be beautiful slides and wonderful ways in interpreting. And my Aries moon keeps it super fun. And I'll pop some humor in there. But everyone has a different way, right? Out there in the astrology world, there's astrologers that focus on transformation, or they focus on healing, or they focus on, I don't know, even the stock market, right? There's astrologers for that as well.
Wow.
But when I work with people on a mentorship level, it's very connected, and that's a 3-month process, meeting on the weekly. And I also do workshops. So if somebody has a team that they're working with, right, and you want a very unique way to host a virtual offsite or an in-person offsite, we can incorporate everyone's astrology charts and have some really fun, enlightening group shares and learn about the people that we work with on the daily. So that's another offering that I do.
And you also mentioned that you do sound baths. So you also offer, in addition to astrology, other services within the realm of wellness?
Yes. I think sound bath has been such a wonderful practice for myself, and I share that with a lot of spas and resorts and properties. Also to team building. A couple weeks ago, we actually provided a sound meditation for facilitators with this organization called Crime Survivors, and they help people who are displaced, whether they've experienced domestic violence and things like that. They partner to get people into safe spaces. And a part of the work I do, I always do my best to make sure I'm giving back to communities who really need it, to remind them that their own personal wellness and self-care is so important to the people that they show up for. I think I was meditating on a quote the other day, and the person who said it escapes me. But the quote was, when you love yourself, actually, I think it was Thich Nhat Hanh. When you love yourself, you love the cosmos, because there is no separation. So if we're loving and caring for ourselves, we're automatically doing that for everyone around us. And I thought that was really beautiful.
Nice. Well, we're kind of winding down to the end of our episode, Marsha. And what we normally typically ask our guests are, being that we're a wellness podcast, you mentioned some of your self-care practices earlier. You talked about your meditation. You talked about your diet being plant-based. You talked about, drinking a specific type of water, which we'd love to hear more about. What do you do for your own wellness and self-care outside of reading charts, outside of your sessions and your workshops and your sound baths? What are some additional things that you do for your own self-care and wellness?
Thanks for asking, Cheryl. So I definitely spend a lot of time in nature. I really feel invigorated when I'm hiking. In this last week, I actually just wake up and I just meditate. I actually spend time to meditate. I'll go through a gratitude list. I'll think about what I'm grateful for, because that is so important to my practice and my mindset. Today, I didn't want to, but I did. I went to the gym because I feel like ever since I turned 40, I've got to strengthen those muscles so they stay with me as long as they can. I don't enjoy going to the gym and lifting weights, but I'll do it for the practical longevity of I want my body to still be able to have strength.
Yes.
So I do that. I also explore in movement. I think I'm kind of like a really big self-care nerd, actually, Cheryl. If there's like one thing that you'll know about me, if even the other day, we went to the Flower Mart. We had a friend who invited us to a workshop to create floral arrangements. And I'm like, this is self-care. Like everything that I like, I name it. Oh, that's totally self-care. That's a self-care activity. So
Yeah.
I think I do have on the daily the basis of meditation, getting in nature, a physical movement. I like to read. I find that part of my self-care practice. I will usually have like 3 or 4 books going at one time, but I do finish them. And when it comes to eating, I really focus on plant-based eating, and I've never felt better. I feel just really great, and I've been doing that since 2017. And I stay hydrated. So there are certain things earlier in my 20s and my 30s where I thought migraines and headaches are just like something normal or hereditary. But since eating plant-based and also being hydrated, I haven't dealt with those migraines or headaches. So there's certain aha moments where I'm like, wait a second. All I had to do was be hydrated. I didn't need to do all that. But hindsight's 2020. That's what works for me, you know? So like I said, everyone's self-care is so unique and different, just like how every person is so unique and different. But
Curious to know what's in your water. What is this special water that you like?
I like to drink structured water.
Okay.
So I've got a Kangen machine. You can also, by shaking your water up and letting it go in the sun, that can structure the water. Or, even if you, it's interesting because these days you see all these fancy waters. There's like alkaline water, but you can put alkaline in your water by putting a cucumber in it.
Yeah.
Putting some fruit in there. So I think it's that. And then also the frequency of it, right? Like I know back in, perhaps 10 years ago, I was probably drinking coffee in the morning, not really focused on my hydration, having soda, and of course, someone's going to get headaches. So I think just being able to practice and see what works well for me. But water is really key. And I also think it's great for your skin. I have people say, what is your skincare routine? I'm like, it's actually just drinking water and also having a light heart. I've had moments in my life where I've experienced a lot of dramatic situations, and thank goodness, because of my practices, I don't get into those situations as much. And I think it comes through.
And it shows.
Thank you.
For sure. Yeah. So as we begin to close, how can our community find you if they have additional questions or want to book with you?
Yeah, it's super easy. You can go to my website. It's RESTPLAY.TODAY. We like to share rest and we like to share play because a lot of people focus on the other things. You can also find me on Instagram, Marsha Pacificar. And yeah, those are the easy ways to find me.
Hey, thank you, Marsha, for talking to our community about self-care astrology. We thank you for sharing your services with us to learn more about the different wellness practices out there, to learn more about astrology itself, and for even sharing all of the trajectories that each sign has to look forward to for 2024. We look forward to personally witnessing your journey unfold, and we're glad to welcome you back to be on our podcast anytime.
Oh, thank you so much, Cheryl. I really appreciate you for allowing us to have this space for our community. I would have loved to have this if I was like a teenager growing up. So I really am just so grateful for you, and your warmth always feels so welcome when we connect. And your dedication and purpose is creating this wonderful, beautiful legacy in the world. And I just hope you take the time to breathe that in. Providing safe space for people to consider their wellness is so powerful, and I'm so here for it. And I'm truly grateful to be a part of this. Thank you for inviting me. And I can't wait to see what blossoms from all of it. And 2024 is going to be a great year for both of us. I just feel it.
Yeah. I mean, you did say that, Libras love to dive into deeper conversations. I think, therefore, the podcast was born.
Yeah, that's right.
And to our community, our next episode launches on Valentine's Day with author Janet Stickman. We'll be talking to Janet about healing racial battle fatigue. So this episode will air on Wellness Wednesday, February 14th. As we close, we'd like to acknowledge once again our guest speaker, Marsha Pacificar, our graphic designer and beatmaker for our opening and closing track, Richie, Charmaine Jane Medella for consent to use your husband ethnic descent's track, Good Vibes Only, that you heard during our break. Our advisors, Allison De La Cruz, Rianda Los Reyes, and Salfo Teologo. Our community partners is Filipino American Life, SoCal Filipinos, and Trek Table, and all of our community members for your shares and support. As always, we'll share more about our guest speakers' offerings on our Instagram stories and highlights for permanent access with any of their upcoming events, including Marsha's. Be sure to follow us at Pilipinx in Wellness on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and on X or Twitter at Pilipinx, the letter N, followed by the letters N and S. Don't forget to continue to hit like and subscribe on our Pilipinx in Wellness YouTube channel. Thank you always for believing in us. Be well, everyone. Continue to take care of yourselves and each other.
Thank you so much. Maraming salamat. And I invite you for this new year to live in your wellness and your miracles. And manigong bagong taon!
Daghang salamat at malipayong ng bagong tuig.